Hi everyone, so it is Wednesday and I'm going to post this later today. This is just gonna be one of those videos where I'm just sitting around talking, so don't get your hopes up on hearing anything too crazy. I haven't been recording or posting anything since my last video, I believe about 5 or 6 days ago, because I wanted to recalibrate and think about everything that I've been experiencing with my family and some things that happened in my past, and just trying to bring my intuition back into balance. And it's interesting to me in the way that I'm seeing myself mature, because intuition, like, it has no proof, right? You just have to believe it without any evidence of anything. And a lot of times, I would say I don't even know if it's the majority or like the absolute amount of times, I'll say like a very small fraction of what I do really involves intuition. It involves psychic work, it involves spiritual work, it involves connecting there. But as far as intuitively, it's like, yeah, I may not have the proof right then when I'm doing a reading, but then it follows up with it, right? Or it's confirmed by another person, right? Or if you think about it in terms of like, if you've gone to live readings and you're basically feeding the information to the psychic or the interpreter, whatever you want to call them, right? Where it's like, I'm seeing blue, what does that mean? Blue, blue, blue. And it's like, oh, my dog's name is Blue. It's not the color blue, it's my dog's name. It's like, okay, your dog, this is, and so I'm in some ways still seeking confirmation after the fact. Even any sort of criminal work, it's the same thing. Even if I don't, anyway, I'm just repeating. So with intuition, and I can see how it's things like what happened with my dad, where the doctors are saying he's knocking on death's door, he wouldn't have made it, it's a miracle, all of these things that obviously people who witness death and witness these life-threatening injuries and circumstances don't just say flippantly, and how there's still a possibility of survival irregardless of what I have seen. It doesn't matter. And so I could, and I have been victim to this many times in my life, and this is what kept me I'm not gonna say stagnant, but like kept me separate from this, is me looking for reason behind it. So for example, and I'm not gonna say I didn't do this with this circumstance. I think like I barely played with the idea and then I dismissed it because I know what I know at this point. And it's just, it would be foolish of me to continuously try and reason it when I know. Like, my faith is so much more instilled, but it's still my rational mind and like me and my identity, like my past identity of who I was like not that long ago, and then like how I say, like, I'm constantly evolving so drastically internally. It feels like such a drastic process and rapid that like my faith is, it's like when I feel faithful, when I'm in the moment of being in faith, when I meditate, or if I'm like in some sort of situation, I naturally go into a state of faithfulness. That's just my nature. I've always been that way. But it's as if now with all these different trials that are coming up in my life, all these different experiences that are just kind of showing me it's a lot more unshakable, or it's like I don't have to go to that place because I'm already exhibiting that in my life. Like, there's not a point, it's not a measure of movement anymore, it's just a measure of awareness, of like realizing that I'm at that point at the majority of my time versus having to step into that, right? And so some of the things that I would like toy in my mind would be like, well, maybe instead of intuition, as far as like, or like what I saw, like his guardian angels, then maybe that was my way of processing that I knew, right? Like maybe we have that DNA, some sort of DNA connection, or it's like just kind of picking up on the vibrations of like life, like a different whatever kind of things that are vibrating off of people, that he would survive. And so the way that my mind interpreted it was to create guardian angels, you know, when it's actually more of like, what am I looking for, that word that's like, you know, what is it called? You know, like cavemen, you know, it's like that very beginning, like primal, I think is the word I'm looking for. It's like this primal, I'm picking up primally, okay, this is what it is. And then in my mind, I'm creating that, right? And those are things that I would like toy with before, but like in my past, and there's a like almost like a split second where it'll kind of start, and then I'm just like, that's ridiculous. Like I can discern at this point, I can discern between these different things, and I've seen what I've seen, I know what I know, I've experienced what I've experienced. There's just no doubt in my mind. There's no doubt. And I think what's so difficult, but not really difficult for me to digest, is the fact that the way that I saw his guides is just, I don't know, it was like, it like puts into perspective that I can be psychic, I can be aware, I can see these things, but I can also not be intuitive. Like what I was saying, where my intuition, and even the girls saying it, like your intuition is not shut down, but it's you're blocking it. Like I'm actively blocking it. And the way that I can explain how I'm interpreting that is saying, I'm seeing all these things, but I'm not going to believe it until I get solid proof. And this actually brings me back to the experience that I briefly told you guys, but I didn't really get into detail because censorship here on YouTube. However, I'm going to be a little bit more specific with you guys. And not only that, but I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea and feel like you could potentially emulate this kind of thing if you're in some sort of dark space in your mind, because this happened to me for my particular reason, and I just don't see, like, you can't replicate someone else's life. You can't replicate their experiences. And so just putting that forewarning. But basically, when I was going through this really, really, really dark time, and I was going to, you know, leave. I was gonna leave. I was gonna end everything. And I was laying on my couch, and I was laying on a love seat. Not that really, just to be specific. And I was crying, and I was crying, and I was crying, and I was like screaming in my head and screaming to myself. I'm like, this is it. Like, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of it. Like, if my purpose here is to just help people or to be a doormat or whatever, like, I've done enough. I don't want to do it anymore. I've done enough. And if everything that I've ever seen and experienced and witnessed on the other side is true, then what's the harm in doing it and just seeing for myself? I'm going to do it. Like, I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid of what happens after. I might as well just figure it out. And they came through very strongly, and they were like, repeat, like repeat, meaning like the same ones that I had originally seen like all my life. These guides, they came through again, and they were like, listen, paraphrasing, but basically, if you're gonna do it, you need to do these things first. And I was like, I'm not gonna do that. They're like, then you're not serious about what you're threatening to do. And it's like, well, I'm just not gonna do it. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm just gonna go, kind of thing. And so basically, like, some other stuff, and then they negotiated with me, and they're like, okay, by this particular age, if something doesn't happen and you still feel that way, go ahead, then do it. Like, just give us until this year, or this age, this particular age, and if something doesn't, if you're in that same space, then fine. And I don't know why that was enough. I guess it's kind of like, well, we'll see what happens. What's the point? Like, we'll see what happens. What is really the difference? And so, like, basically, like, later that day, and like the next day was amazing. It was just like, one of my friends surprised me, and I had this like amazing experience, like once in a lifetime experience. And it was so beautiful, and I was still struggling for a while, but it's like I slowly started to kind of get better, because it was like this relief off my back, right? Like, it's like this relief of like, okay, I made this promise to myself. I made this promise to, if it exists, if these things exist, then I made a promise. So let's just make the most of it. Let's just see what happens. And it wasn't like I had like this crazy shift in my life, you know, that I can attest to and say like I completely transformed my life. It just kind of slowly started happening, where it was like kind of how I am now, where it's like I can't really grieve the way I used to grieve, because my faith is becoming stronger and stronger and stronger, that it's hard to kind of feel too many of those emotions that we feel of like yearning and loss and all of this, when it never is felt to be lost, kind of thing. That's kind of glossing over it, right? But then something drastic happened in my life. Like, this huge epiphany moment happened in my life, a huge spiritual awakening. And it wasn't until I reflected back that I realized, you know, because it was several years later, I was like, oh my gosh, like, it happened, and like my life is completely different. It's completely different. One moment, I need to blow my nose. Okay, so anyway, saying all of that, and kind of just, it's like I still waited for the proof in some ways, right? I guess. And so I've kind of almost always navigated this in a way of waiting for that proof. So, I'm kind of, not kind of, I am starting to come into this place where I'm realizing I don't need any more proof. Like, I'm not looking for proof. Like, I know what I know, and I believe what I do. And I think also that kind of is opening me up more to how I've talked before, where I felt this message very strongly. I told you I have all these books, so many books and religious texts, still books, but that I wanted to look through, I wanted to research, I wanted to see, I wanted what other people believe. And I don't watch all of this stuff online that's like telling me what other people are believing and all this stuff, because for me, I can't process it that way. I have no trust in something unless I discover it myself, Like even with history, like I have a very hard time trusting what someone says or some historian says unless I can figure it out myself in whatever way is acceptable. And then I can double check with them if it's in alignment. And if not, then I'm still skeptical. It's just how I am. Trauma stuff, I guess. But like it's worked for me. And so now I'm opening up to the possibility and the idea and the confidence that I could look into these things, I could read these things, I could research these things and use it as to an advantage for me to have more knowledge and to have more understanding. And I can use my discernment in what it feels right to me in those, when before I wasn't ready for that. So there is a shift in those things for me, which I find very interesting. And so it's kind of changing the subject, but it's all kind of in line and flow in some way. I don't know. But so I've been wanting to talk about what I had seen when it comes to animals when they pass away. And I've been wanting to talk about this since October. And then it kept coming up several months after that. And I even felt someone's energy, like grieving energy of someone very strongly and powerfully, of someone who had lost a pet and is seeking closure. And I mentioned it one time in one of my videos, but I haven't gotten into full detail about this. And I would constantly write it in my calendar, like to do this video. And yet I would feel stopped and prevented for this because there's a video that I need to, or information that I need to preface it with. And this is the information I want to tell you, which is there's this big push. And it's been going on for a while, this big push within the community, the spiritual community, like of what happens after death. And I question that. Because just as years ago there was a huge push for soulmates and to write books about soulmates, make TV shows about soulmates, talk about soulmates, why is it that there is a push for this new context that has to do with death and life after death? What happens to you after death? Your spirit. What do you see? What do you know? What do you experience? What do you pick up on? And I try to think of it in a more innocent way, like, well, they've gone through these other topics as soulmates, twin flames, all this kind of stuff. So maybe it's just something else to cycle through, like they cycle through fashion. Or is it because these publishers, these producers are getting older, and so at the time that they were pushing for certain things, that's what they were experiencing or they were wanting to know about, and now that they're getting older, then they want to hear about, so they're using these psychics or these people or whatever, to try and just figure it out for them. And also that narrative maybe to kind of help with whatever kind of target audience, right? Which is really not that innocent. It's still sinister in some ways because it's not authentic, and spiritually things need to come from an authentic place, right? And to have an agenda behind it, as I've talked about about. It's very dangerous. And you see, even with like YouTube community, a lot of people who copy one another. And so how do you know who's not planted into it, or if they're influenced by people who are influenced? And you shouldn't be, you know, it's not coming from a sincere place. Or maybe it's coming from a sincere place, but it's not coming from a mature, it's not coming from the right place. My opinion. But I don't feel that it's innocent in nature, basically. I tried to look at it that way. I don't feel that it is. I feel like it's coming from a sinister place. And I'm thinking, why? What was going on? What is going on that they're preparing people? Just like I've told you, there's so many soulmate connections. And so it's like, it's towards the more finalized parts of soulmates, you know, and sometimes it's twisted information, a lot of twisted information, because your soulmate is your twin flame. And so if you're still in that connection, you're still in a more young stage of that. You're not at the final stages. And you know, all these karmic things and whatever relationships, like, they're to serve a purpose. And sometimes that purpose is also to unite with this karmic partner, and it could be positive karmic, you know, so you can learn whatever, all kinds of different things. It really doesn't matter. The point is, like, I'm talking about this death kind of thing. Why are they focusing so much on what happens after death? Like, what are they preparing us for? To be comfortable, basically, is what I'm saying. To be comfortable enough, to money driven, okay? Beast system. It's the beast system. It's the beast system. Sorry, it's just repeating in my head. It's trying to say beast, so I'm just gonna say it all. Bear with me. Beast system. It's the beast system, feeding the beast system. Aware or not, it's feeding the beast system. Whether they're aware or not, or the people that they're instructing to feed the system. And the system, okay, so a system is just the means to the product, right? So the beast is the devil. The system is the workings in order to get the devil its power. So when we talk about a beast system, that's all of the money was what I'm seeing, an emphasis on money and power here, right? And so money and the focus on money, the love of money, the obsession of money is feeding the beast system. It is the beast system. Money is, because it's in direct opposition of God and the system of God. The system of the currency of God is love, and it's an endless supply, right? Money is just, it's a construct, right? It's a construct in order for us to kind of trade and live and negotiate in life. But in that way, we have different class systems determined on our finances, or whatever we use for currency, whether we're money right now, right? We're using current money, we're using you know, property, because that also has some sort of financial attachments to it, right? And so this is it's purposefully to feed the beast system, though. But why? I'm seeing it when I say like classes, you know, and like a caste, like the caste system, I'm seeing a direct separation. I'm seeing direct separation. I could equate this. I'm seeing 2 equate 2, 3. I'm seeing, it's just, when I say that, it goes like and it's like flashing different ways, because there's other places, probably like, I don't know, Haiti or Africa or somewhere like in these areas where there's like the people, Pakistan, where it's like the people Mexico, right? It's like warlords and all these, where they're essentially politicians, and then the people who are not getting the direct access to basic necessities. And it's drastic like that. You know, the first things I was seeing was Egypt, and then I was seeing what I've talked about in some sort of thing that I was seeing. You have to look back to these old videos where it's like my hands, and I was talking about this stuff that I was seeing in visions, like I've been having for like all the time, where it's like they're trying to get an offset of like society, but it's going to be like programmed, like you're connected into, it's like CGI, or what is it called, where you put the things on that people do now, that's like everyday thing, like you go into this other world. It's like that, but this is part of it. This is part of it. So they want you more comfortable with death, so that you're more not, and it seems like, of course, like that would be wonderful. I would feel so much more at peace if I'm more comfortable knowing what's there. But that I can see how it's connected with everything that I'm saying. It's because you're looking for the proof. So you're looking, and because you're verifying it from another person, right? All of this stuff that I say, I'm waiting till another person verifies my information. I'm waiting for a situation to verify what I see, right? And so, and with the situation I told you, where it's like, I'll find out. I'm not using my intuition. I'm gonna use real, like, my situation. I'm gonna cut myself off from this world and figure it out myself. When it's like, I need to have intuition. I need to have faith. I need to have trust that everything's happening for a reason. Everything is all well. What I see is true, and I should just get it together and fix my life. And so, it's like it's almost like it's carving a path for people, right? It's like controlling a narrative. It's creating a narrative to control a narrative, so that people kind of congregate to this one belief, or like a similar belief, a similar system, where they're all relating and talking and feeling like, you know, it's like, oh, I feel like I'm in the know. I feel like I know what I'm talking about. I feel like this. I feel like, oh yeah, this is this. So then when you're getting that unique information, or that unique interpretation, it gets funneled into the narrative, to where it's very similar to what I say about drugs. It's very similar in the sense that when you do drugs, which is also part of the B system, because you're saying that you can't control, if you can't see something, okay, that's another, let me just talk about what I'm talking about, because that'll be like 5 hours of just me going off. So, like with drugs, and like when people go off and do drugs, and they're like, oh, I saw this like crazy trippy stuff, and this is, you know, what does it mean? Or it's completely this, and I'm not making sense. I'm not even making a full sentence, but it's like, you're basically saying something and you don't fully understand it, or you think that you're interpreting it in one way, but it's like you were stuck in there and you didn't do it on your own. You needed some substance to take you there. So you don't even know, like, you weren't prepared for it. If you were prepared for it, then you would have been able to do without drugs. You need the assistance of something because you can't do it on your own. And so it's the same thing with having a narrative, where it's like you get this information and you bring it to the narrative, and you're not taking the proper steps to, like, I'm saying it, but I'm saying two different things, and then I'm connecting it. It's like the narrative is a drug. It's like a shortcut to something that isn't real, that isn't true, because it's a narrative, and it's to make people talk about, change the vibration, change their interpretations, change how it's knocking your intuition out, because it's very similar in some ways to religion in this sense. It's similar but different. It's actually very totally different, but also similar. Okay, hold on. I'm probably getting very annoying. Sorry. Okay. With religion, when I say that, I feel fluttery. I feel spiritual. I feel good. And I know that there are religious practices that are dark, right? I'm not talking about the dark stuff, but even in that same essence, there's a different resonance that comes with spirituality. A narrative is human designed. Religion is also human interpreted, but not human designed. Do you see what I'm saying? And so with this narrative, where I'm seeing the similarity is because of that human component that twists it, that could potentially twist it and manipulate it and control, right? Religion can be used as a form of control over ethnicities, sexual orientation, females. What I was gonna say is not men, females. I mean, I'm just thinking like God, from what I'm seeing, God is a whole soulmate, is a united soul. So it's part feminine. It's not a transvestite. It's not one of those. It's not that. One of those, meaning it's the demon is devil is represented as a transvestite. It's a human. Anyway, moving on. There's something weird happening, and I don't know what it is. So this is now a next topic, but somehow connected all this. You know, I've just kind of stopped talking about that now. What we were just talking about, I'm over it. I'm moving on. So I got this energy. I've been getting this energy lately. It's like this looming energy. I'll say it's very similar to when Queen Elizabeth died, where I felt like there was like this alien energy. The video is titled The Arrival, I believe. It was like this weird energy, like summoning energy. And this is similar to it, but very different. The only ways I can explain it is explaining what it isn't. So it isn't quite that same energy. It doesn't feel like it's human created. It doesn't feel like a bunch of people are intentionally doing this to bring some sort of energy in here. It feels like June, like, you know, a lot of like things happen in June, right? June, July, I think May sometime now, around May 14, 15, 13 maybe. There's some weird energy, and it's like a dome. It's like a dome feeling over the earth. Where we're kind of like ants. I was gonna say like ants in under this it's like if someone put a bowl over us, like over an ants. It's like a bowl, and it is a glass bowl, right? And we're ants, we're looking, and it's like, I know that there's something there. I know I can see through it. I don't know what it is. I know that there's some sort of echo. There's like it's like bouncing off back onto it, so we can hear our little feet louder. I know that another ant didn't do this. I know a bunch of ants didn't do this. I know that no matter, it's like if ants were to communicate and they're doing all these seances and stuff or whatever, or they're using like praying mantis and all these other bugs, right? It's like something totally different that they could not possibly anticipate or understand. The bowl understands the whatever the bowl represents, understands the ants. The ants in no way can perceive fully and accurately and understand the bowl. And we don't like it. We don't like it. Nobody likes it. Like, even the dark-sided ants do not like it. They're the ones who don't like it the soonest, is what I'm hearing. So it's like, not the most, the soonest. Like, and you think like a really dark-sided person, like, what would they not like? Right? Like, they thrive. Like, when you're really, really dark-sided, I'm talking like really bad. And you know, like, really bad. When we talk about warlords, cartel, all that, like, a lot of you know, sometimes you're doing it for sacrificial reasons, you're doing it for religious kind of thing, right? The sacrificial might be religious bound, it might be for like an honor type of thing for family, but it's not really religiously. It could be because you're kind of stuck in this situation. And then there are people who love it. Like, they just straight up love, like, I don't care, you can say whatever it is, that's just what I love. So it's like, what would they not like? Like, that's a weird question in my opinion. What would they not like? Like, it's kind of limited on that, right? I don't know. What am I getting? I don't know how this is gonna show up in the real world. I don't know if it's drastic. I don't know if it's slow. I got this weird taste in my mouth, and it tastes very familiar, but I can't think of what it is. It's like a smell, though. It's like, you know how sometimes like fresh cut grass is so strong, like you can kind of taste it, like coats your nasal cavity. I don't know what it is. I have no idea. I'm drawing a blank. What am I seeing? So, like, what I'm seeing is like these people, right? And I don't know who they are, but it feels like they're in some sort of, it would be like whatever their name is, it's like witches or whatever, right? Like it feels like witches. Like, okay, I'm not even sure, it doesn't matter about the card. It's, I forgot her name. She was like Marina. Okay, so something's happening or going to, it's not happening. Something's going to happen behind the scenes, okay? This can go back to 2016 era. Very similar type of uncovering, right? I don't know if anything's going to be uncovered, but this is a continuation. It's like always continuing, but this is just trying to give you guys an idea of what I'm talking about. So I'm seeing a community of people and they're focusing on something. They're feeling like they want to, they're hopeful about something. They're hopeful about, there's like a light. There's a light. It's showing me like a light, and the light is representative of hope. And this hope is towards some goal that they have, something that they're wanting to achieve, right? And they're working towards this particular orb, this particular hopeful thing. And the reason they're doing it is because it's being told to them to do this. So again, like witches or whoever, like high-ranking priestesses and stuff, where they're working to try and get this particular thing working in the beast system on a more esoteric way, more that, you know. And there's something that like stops or halts the whole thing. Like they're like the bowl, that's essentially what the bowl is. So and it's something that nobody can accurately understand, because just like with the ant metaphor, the ants don't like no ant understands what that is. Like they may understand the human, they may have seen a bowl, but they don't know the purpose, or they haven't, because they're too little, they haven't crawled up a bowl before. If they did, it's their own perspective of it. They're not understanding because they don't have the same mental capacity as the human does. So it's like people may be able to predict this or know this or sense this or feel this, similar to what I'm doing, or even on greater capacity, to greater degrees, or people who are more aware. It's like no one's actually truly aware of this. And you can look astrologically and say, oh, well, it's because of this or this and this, but it's not. It's like astrologically, it's something that is going to, it has something to do astrologically. It has something to do with the alignment, planetary alignments. But it's not something that you can explain with the things that we know right now. It's like, it's beyond what we're already aware of and what we know. And so you would only be explaining like a fraction of it. It would be like, oh, well, like you just wouldn't get it. No one would get it. It's something totally like out there, unexpected, unimaginable, inexplainable, inconceivable. And I don't know if this is like physically things falling, physically things coming down, messages coming down. I would say energy, but I feel like energy would be messages, but I'm hearing the word energy too. It's like things like coming down from, it's like something coming up. Okay, like this, right? Like how to explain, like, the people, these hands are, the image I'm getting is these hands put the seed there. That seed didn't plant there on its own. That wasn't natural. That was unnatural. It's weird. They're giving me an example of artificial insemination, like in vitro. I don't know if that's the same thing, but where it's like, it could be natural, but in this situation, it isn't natural, and it couldn't be natural because it wasn't possible. But then it was made possible because of human intervention. And so they planted this there, but there's an after effect that they aren't fully aware of, or they almost don't care. And then somehow, like, it's like then these peaches come raining down and decimating this tree that they planted. They think they're prepared because they put their hands here and they're like honoring, preserving, loving in some ways of this particular tree. But that's not enough. Like, you know, you can love it as much as you want, but the fact that it's unnatural, there's something about it that can, it's like love can't, it can't keep something here when it's meant to go, or it's not meant to be here to begin with. Like, it wasn't supposed to be here to begin with. And so the from the perspective of the hands, is you could be upset about the peaches. You can blame the peaches. You can blame external things. Like, you can blame what's natural, when in reality, you're just denying because it's too much to deal with your choices. Like, you don't want to really face reality because it's too much. So you're placing the blame or your attention somewhere else on something and get frustrated. Well, if you never planted that to begin with, you'd probably be very excited about peaches raining from the sky, because then you would have a peach orchard for free, or you would have a bunch of food, or, you know, it would bring a bunch of wildlife, like all kinds of different things that you would actually be excited about. And I don't see, like, I'm trying to see, like, would you still be excited? Like, even though that's gone, could you change it? It's like, no, like, you're not going to change your perspective on it because the way that you see it, I'm saying you, but I don't know how this is coming across. Like, it might be like the collective, like, we're all going to be upset about something, but we created the problem and now it's getting destroyed, but we created the problem. It would be like mass deconstruction of like the power grid or something like crazy like that, you know? And it's like, we're upset because, I mean, if that happened, we would have major problems, majorly fast. It would not be good. We should not want, I don't want that to happen. But then at the same time, it's like, well, if we would have dealt with like independence from this kind of stuff, because those issues wouldn't be an issue back in like the 1800s, you know, that wasn't an issue then if the power grid shut down, because we were all independent for the most part when it comes to resources, and we didn't have modern technology like we do, right? And so it would be something like that where we're all angry and frustrated and panic. I don't know, it's like panicking. It feels more like frustration. But here's like the weird thing is, like, I'm seeing these two cars as facing each other. So it's this man that's facing this other man, and he's on a peach, which is he on a peach? He's not even on a peach, but it looks like maybe it's like a peach plant. He's smelling a bud, and it's kind of shaped like a peach at the bottom, like the empty space in between these two. And I'm really focused on these two fountains. And that's symbolizing something here, whether it's two choices, two perspectives, or two alternatives, two options, two people being presented, like choose this or this. Two instances, 2 years. I don't know what it is, but there's an importance to 2 here, the number 2, and it having a drastic role in this. But it looks like they're looking at each other like 2 people or 2 countries or 2 organizations working together, but they're at a distance. Like, this guy's an Asian dude, and this guy's, you can't tell from his back, but he has like just his hair and, well, I don't know about his skin color. I don't know, his hair, he just looks more like European, you know, like dark, kind of wavy type of hair. I don't know, he gives me, and that doesn't even look Asian now I'm looking at him up close, but that's how I'm seeing it in my mind, is like an Asian and some sort of other ethnicity that's not black. He's not African, he's not might be Indian, Saudi Arabia, you know, I don't know, it could be something else. Saudi Arabia sounds about right, actually, in some way, like some sort of Arab place, UAE, something like that. Gas, could it be something to do with gas, like oil, like oil, cutting off oils to somewhere? Could it be the change of hands of who has more play? And because I am pretty sure, like, the US, like, for example, the US dollar is based off of the petrol dollar, you know, like gas. So a lot of our wars and you know, finding these like crazy criminals, right, in all these other places, and why we have to go to war with these places, because it has to do with, you know, not oil. It has to do with something that has nothing to do with oil, and that's just, you know, coincidence that anyone would ever try and connect those kinds of things. While other countries, I think like Russia is on gold, which, you know, we're having a problem with them right now too. You know, that's I have no problem with anyone, actually, to be honest with you. I really don't, but that's kind of like the consensus here. So I don't know if it's something like that, where it's like a change of hands of like royalties, and how that somehow drastically affects a lot of people. What was 6 years ago? It's 2023 minus 3, 2026, 2017. I'm seeing 6, and I was talking about 2016. So I don't know, maybe something to do with potentially 6 years ago, or some repeat of some similar circumstance, or there's some connection to someone from 6. I don't know. I'm not sure. There's something I'm missing, and something I'm wrong about. There's something I'm missing and I'm wrong about. Like, it's making me very frustrated. It's this frustrating feeling because it's a rushed feeling. It's this feeling of like, this is what I keep hearing. What is it that you could potentially be wrong about? And it has something to do with light, like the light. Like, I keep drawing, it's like when they're like, what could you possibly be wrong about? And then I keep seeing this light here, this explosion of light, this beaming of light. And it doesn't feel like it's representative of like spirituality, and like seeing light and seeing something positive. It's like, what is it that is potentially symbolic of? And it has, the light is something to do with whatever it is that's the riches, the beast system, the money system. Well, I tied out money at the very beginning, and it has to do with money. Hidden, something hidden, some sort of like, again, like some sort of marriage between two entities, like organizations or something, and like a deal. It feels like a deal to collapse or to separate. And see here in this one, it's the same thing. Like here's the tree, right? And it's like jewel, and but this is how they're showing me. It's like, look, it's like a mirror reflection. It's a mirror reflection. So if you look at one side, like this is the truth. The truth is one. It's one person or one organization. It looks like two deal. It's a two deal thing, or it's a one person thing. Like it's like you would blame one person. You would think so. What's behind it is actually the same thing, or like the same person, or it's like represented, let's say like Russia, China, you know, since we use this, or America, China, or America, Russia, whatever, and we're like connecting to someone, but there's someone above that's actually the person behind both, you see. But even they don't know that. Like they don't really realize it. And the third party realizes it. Third party meaning those witches and stuff that are in control. It's like they kind of realize it, but they all like, no one actually gets the full picture. And like while all this is going on, there's something else going on. It's like here's like the rainbow is like the bowl. So it's like all of this below is going on, but the rainbow is happening above it that has something totally different, something totally separate. But like this has to do with it in some way. It's almost like it would be, here's an example. I'm just making this up. I'm not getting this. But it should kind of give you, it's like if we just started this like nuclear attack or something crazy, and like all these people, it's like this common thing that people say where it's like, aliens don't come down here because we're too aggressive and violent, and we would just, you know, whatever kind of thing. Like we're like this crazy culture, right? And so it would be like if this mass alien race that's like way more powerful and strong and like giant, we go crazy, we're starting to like really get off the rails, and they put a bowl over us, put us in a little, you know, aquarium. They're like, I'll deal with that later. Or not at all. Just stay over there, because if you continue to do that, then you're gonna like burn a hole in the ground or something. You know, it's like they're not doing anything bad necessarily, but they're taking us out of our environment, or they're changing our environment, and we're kind of just, now we're really stuck. It's like some of these ants had an idea to go, you know, to Timbuktu, and now they can't because this person took them, put a bowl over them, you know. Now they're stuck in, you know, Arkansas. I don't know. And so what am I talking about? Who am I? Where am I? Who are you? The advice is that I was like, well, what's the advice here? I don't even know what's going on. Like I'm just drawing a blank at this point, because it just feels like it's like, well, because see things for what they are. you know? It's like, look at, for instance, this came up reverse, right? It's Archangel Michael, first chakra, and in some ways it looks like he's ripping a heart out. It looks very aggressive, really violent. He has a sword, it's like, what's going on? What's up with that? And so looking at that realistically, don't get caught up in the narrative. Don't get caught up in the emotions. Look at it for what it is and just determine how you feel about it from there. Be very aware, be hyper vigilant of your thoughts, your surroundings, and what's happening. And then we have 42, which that number stood out to me, and woman holding a coin. And you could look at her and be intimidated. She's like showing off her coin, her riches, or whatever. She has like ivory makeup, like some sort of thing on her. What is it that they used to use that like used to poison people, or at least geishas used to use it? Anyway, her face is just covered in makeup, and she's wearing this outfit, but it like kind of, when you're looking at it, it's like, it's not a big deal. It's just some woman holding some, again, culturally, some created, society created the significance behind the coin, the importance behind a coin. And this is just, you can get that at the arts and craft, and just kind of iron it on if you want. It's really not, it's not that astounding what she looks like. She's just like some plain person. She's fine. She's just, look at her without her makeup and her hair up. She's just, a regular person. And also not looking at the divide, because she can also be a lot nicer than you think, is what I'm saying. It's like, people who present themselves in this way, you're going to want to be wary of an us versus them mentality, because you don't really know someone, even if they present themselves a certain way. Like, she's still presenting herself as like this intimidating woman, but in reality, in her essence, she could be a very sweet girl. She could be very, she could be interested in wildlife. She has all this stuff around her. She has a kitty cat, but she doesn't even realize that she would be interested in wildlife and going hiking or whatever, because no one's ever shown that to her. And so when you ask her, you tell her, in this persona, she's like, that's stupid. I don't want to do that. I would never do that in my entire life. That's disgusting. And I don't like bugs. And I don't like dirt. And it's like, well, she doesn't really quite know. She only knows what the life that she's created, or that's maybe a path that was created for her. And so kind of give her grace in that, where it's like, okay, that's fine, but the offer is always open. And when we're all kind of living under this, peach fallen world, not saying we're going into some apocalypse or something, but this is just an example. Is like, like, hey, you're my neighbor. You're dirty. Like, let's try and enjoy it. She ends up enjoying it. Let's go to a stream. I don't know. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. And then rest and rejuvenation is the advice in reverse, which is, it's time for you to have active thought, active rest, and more activity physically, but in a restful, more calming fashion, a purposeful fashion, So for example, it's like taking up Taekwondo. You know, that's something that can give you a lot of mental peace, mental control, and be tactful in your approach to how you see life, and also how you can actively defend yourself. So it's good prep work for anything that may come up, God forbid, but it's also something that can be practiced in your day-to-day life. It's like a change of lifestyle, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you don't want to do anything that's too, like, sporadic or too, you know what I mean? Like, neurotic, I guess. I don't know what the word is, but it's like, you don't want to be too crazy with everything and like overdo something where you're to your own detriment. You want to come from a calmer approach, a purposeful approach, a tactful approach. And there's a lot of what's coming through of imbalance. And so even with your mind, it's not getting into a panic mode. It's getting into a preparedness mode. I don't know. I'm making it seem like it's just this doom and gloom, you know? I don't know what it is, and I don't feel anything major. Like, I'm not feeling anything associated with it. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing and how it's coming through. I think it's mostly just like try and be as aware as you can about, I don't know, your surroundings, and also just be aware of what you can do and prepare, and I don't know. There's like something about like in this card, it has like these cups and it feels like an offer. So it's this, and I don't know if this is like a general message or like a specific message for someone where it's like, don't take the first couple offers, or like don't jump towards certain offers. Like, be more discerning or skeptical of these offers. I don't know if I'm just like mixing that up with this reading or not. This is the one that keeps showing up. Deception and envy. It's the one that keeps popping up when I'm like opening the deck. And the number 7, so I don't know if it's the month, seventh month, like July. And there's that again. Deception and envy again. I don't know. Be aware. Maybe that deception energy is like the like masks coming off, you know, like it's very strong. It's like strong opposing energies. Where I think a lot of there's going to be this perspective for people where they feel like the devil does win, like a temporary win or like some sort of loss or something, but it's more of just the perspective or like a reality shift. I'm not sure, and I don't know how this is going to show up and when it's going to show up exactly. I mean, there's something to do with the dates that I told you, but I'm really, 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 really confused. I'm confused because, okay, I'm going to say one more thing and then I'm done here. It's because it's something to do with two people, but it's showing up as one person, the deception and envy. It's two people, but it's either showing up as one person. It's like two people is showing up as one person, then people realize it's two people, but it is really another one person. So it's not the elements here, it's something else. I don't know. That's what I see. Make sense of it or not, it is what it is. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.